Everybody, and welcome to the class. Thank you for connecting, and the idea today is similar to the last few days, to try and show you an article or a text and just try to analyze the text in relation to English to identify the grammar aspects and also the vocabulary aspects and the expressions and all the detail that might be important when you are learning English. So today we continue with the story. So we're on story 6, and these are just very short stories with little messages and little morals from the story. And today the title is The Boulder and the Gold. So I have not read this story yet, but I'm sure there will be lots of grammar aspects and lots of very interesting parts of English and vocabulary to try and show you and to try and help. So we'll continue with the text. Hopefully the connection on Facebook will be fine. That's the most important thing, because previously we had a lot of difficulty before with the connections, but in the last week the connection seems to be a lot clearer, and I think the solution and the reason is I am using FaceTime as the video on the right. Here you can see it's the application FaceTime, which is better, it seems, compared to Zoom. There's less data or less energy required, so I think that's the improvement. Also at the bottom we have the text and the note from the class, so I will write some of the vocabulary, some of the expressions here at the bottom of the page, and on the left we have the article in relation to the content and the vocabulary. So just to double check with Facebook that we are functioning and we are working. I think yes, I think we're okay, so that's important. So hopefully you can enjoy the class and you can learn a few little tips and a few little things from this lesson. Hopefully you understand me, my accent and the velocity. Hopefully you can understand, because we have lots of people with different levels of English and from different places. So hopefully you can understand me clearly. I think there are subtitles available as well, which might help, and hopefully you can use them if you want. Okay, so the boulder and the gold. So the story is, there once was, and of course this structure is very, very important. Singular, there is, or plural, there are, and in the past there was, but once I think here is maybe called the adverb. So at one time there was a king, and remember the article, you have the indefinite article and the definite article. In this case it's called the indefinite article because it's a king in general, but if it's specific we say the king, but in this case it's just a king in general. King obviously is from the family. You have a king, you have a queen, you have the prince, you have the princess. So there is a lot of vocabulary in relation to these types of families. So here we have the king, the queen, the prince and the princess. And here again we have the relative pronoun. So the technical name for this word is the relative pronoun. We have seen in the previous classes the relative pronoun is very, very important and very common. So basically this is the substitution for a king. Okay, so it's repetition. It's the subject, a king who decided, so the verb is to decide, and here it's the past simple. I decide in the present, but the past I decided to do is the verb infinitive, because remember infinitive we need to go, to eat, to drink, to have, to do. Again, article for experiment, and normally with the vowel at the beginning, E, we maybe have an experiment. So in other situations you would say an experiment, but because we have little, which is the adjective, so little is before the noun, and for this reason we use a, because the first letter is a consonant and not the vowel, and that's the reason it's a little experiment. The subject again is he, and I think the subject is the king, and again the relative pronoun, so it's the subject of the sentence. And almost every sentence in English you need the subject. Okay, maybe in other languages, in Spanish, it's possible to eliminate the subject pronoun, that's the technical name, but in English we need the subject almost always. Okay, and here it's the verb to have. But remember, the verb to have in the past is had, irregular. I have in the present and the past I had. So the king had, again, article, indefinite article for the substantivo, for the noun, and the noun is a boulder, and the adjective is a giant boulder. So giant is enormous, massive, huge. They're the typical synonyms we use for giant. You can say huge, enormous, gigantic is another possibility, and they are, as I said, massive maybe is another one. Okay, put is the verb poner, and it's irregular because put in the present, put in the past, and put in the participle. So the three columns, put, put, put. Okay, in Spanish it's poner, and English it's very flexible, very common. We use the verb to put in many situations. So here it's in the middle of the street, so it's put in the middle of the street, but this is a little bit difficult because here right means completely. Okay, so it's very tricky because normally right is derecha, direction, derecha. That's the first possibility. For example, turn right, and you have the human rights. Okay, derechas humanos. But also we have an adjective. You could say right in the center, and the significance is completely in the center. So you, at the moment, you are right in the center, and the significance is you are completely in the center. Okay, and here it means completely in the middle of the street. So there's no connection to the direction, zero connection to direction. The significance here, right, is completely. Okay, the third possibility with right is correct. You are right, you are correct. Okay, that is right, that is correct. So right in the center has the significance completely. Okay, completely in the center. As I said, derechos is the first one. So you have 3 or 4 possibilities, and then the fourth possibility, you are right, and the significance is you are correct. Okay, so very, very interesting. But this expression is very, very good. Completely in the middle of the street. He, again, is the subject, who is the king. Then is probably related to the time, the adverb, for example, once. Then, entonces in Espanol. This word is very, very interesting, and I'm curious if you have the idea of the significance of this word, because it's from the verb in Spanish esconder, esconder, no say esconder, I think, pero in English the verb is to hide. The past is I hid. Okay, so it's past irregular, and also we have the participle hidden. Okay, so hide, hid, hidden, and hidden is an adjective as well. For example, the shop is hidden behind the beach. The cafe is hidden down the street. So it's very important adjective, but also the participle of the verb. And here it's the past simple. He then hid, and in this situation it's himself. You can hide yourself, or I can hide the pen, I can hide the book, but in this situation he's physically hiding himself. Near is the same as close to. You can say near, you can say close to, and you can just say close as well. So he then hid near to the boulder, so close to the border or next to the border. To see, infinitive, and again we have the relative pronoun who. Again, this is the subject of the sentence. If anyone, that's a good cohesive, a good coherent linker. So it just makes the sentence a bit more colorful, a bit more fluent. If anyone, comma, comma, who, the verb is would try. Okay, intentar is the verb try. Of course, the second verb that is similar to try is attempt, which is very important. So to try the exercise, the significance is to attempt the exercise. So the second verb is more fluent, more advanced, and the majority of the people use try, but a little bit better vocabulary is to attempt. Okay, and here they would attempt, they would try. To move is the verb. It is very, very important. So this is the substitution for the boulder. So they would try to move the boulder. Okay, but we don't need to say boulder again. We just say to move it out of the way. Okay, and that structure of the way, it's possible to say you are in the way. So for example, if you are obstructing the traffic, you are obstructing the people moving, you are in the way. Okay, so if you are in the way, you are obstructing. But if you are on the way, that's completely different. So you are on the way, and the significance means you are traveling at the moment. Okay, so you are in transit and you are moving athia towards the party or the meeting or the work or the place. So you are on the way. In the way, as I said, is obstruction, and out of the way means you are not in the equation, and you are not obstructing. So you are out of the way, and it's flexible because you can say the application for the job is out of the way. You don't have to worry, you don't have to concern because it is out of the way. Okay, and here it's to move it out of the way so people don't have to worry and nobody has to be concerned because it's out of the way. Okay, first, so this is related to the time. Some, again, you need to be clear with the difference between any and some is a bit more specific. Okay, so some merchants, the CH is difficult. In English for pronunciation, we have a lot of possibilities. You could say church, you could say stomach, you can say ache, you can say chemist. So sometimes the pronunciation is like a K. Okay, so here it's not the K, church. Stomach, it's like a K. Ache, it's similar sound to a K. Okay, and chemist, it's a similar sound as a K. Okay, and that's very, very important. But the merchant is not like the K. The merchant is more like the church. Okay, so the CH sound in English is tricky, and here it's merchants. Wealthy is a fantastic adjective because most people do not know it, because most people understand rich. You could say rich woman, and rich area. Okay, you could say rich, very, very typical, but the other adjective is wealthy. Okay, so you can have a wealthy person, a wealthy area. Okay, and the substantivo is the wealth. That's like the richness. Okay, but we have an expression in English. We say your health is your wealth. That's a very, very famous expression, and the significance is the health for you is the most important thing compared to money. So if you have a comparison with your health and a fortune, this expression represents that the health is more important, or maybe valuable or more valuable than the physical money. Okay, and of course you need to be very, very clear the difference between health and healthy. A lot of people confuse these, and healthy is the adjective. So for example, you are healthy. It's a healthy situation, a healthy diet, and of course the th is like a zeta in Espanol. Health, real is health, but sometimes, especially in Ireland, maybe, and my pronunciation, the th is not very strong or not very correct phonetically. So health would be the health system, okay, and healthy would be the adjective. So a lot of people confuse the two here, so we need to be very careful always. Walked, no problem, it's the verb pasear, and by is really a bit difficult for the preposition. It's like beside you. So if somebody walks by, it's like they walk past. Okay, so to walk by has the significance to walk past. It's the preposition by, which is possible beside. So for example, at the moment, I am by the cinema. I am beside the cinema. In Espanol, al lado. Okay, here we have the subject, they, and this is the representation of the merchants. Okay, so you have the merchants, the people, ellos, they. Walk is the verb. In the past, it's regular. So they walked in the past. And remember to construct the verbs generally in the past, we just add ed. So they walked around, preposition. Okay, so the boulder is like a stone and you walk around the stone. And just to give you the translation for the boulder, I'm going to show you the word reference here. And I'm not sure in Spanish the significance or the word for boulder, roca, peña, pedrusco, penasco. Okay, so it's a very specific word. And in this situation, it's so big and so strong that it's necessary to walk around the boulder. Okay, complaining. So the verb is to complain, and you need to be very clear the difference between the verb and also the substantivo, or the noun in English. So a complaint is with the T, and the verb to complain is the verb. And in English, we have a lot of expressions for conversation. When you meet your friend, we use complain a lot. For example, how are you? We say I cannot complain, I can't complain, and the significance is everything is okay. You have no reason, no motivation to complain. Um, so it is important, and here it's the gerundio, complaining, that, and then the king again is the subject. So that is another relative pronoun. The previous relative pronoun was who, but in this situation it's that or which. Okay, so you have who, that, which. They are the most typical relative pronouns, and in this situation it creates and introduces the new clause of the sentence. The king is the subject, hasn't been maintaining. That's a very, very complicated maybe structure. So the verb is to maintain, and I'm curious if you now can identify the tense here. What do you think is the verbal tense with this structure? Has not been maintaining. It's very, very difficult, but we need to analyze the structure here. So to maintain is the verb. It's regular. So the past is I maintained. The participle is maintained also. So maintain, maintained, maintained. So the present perfect, remember the present perfect is the period in the past that's finished, but the consequences are probably related to the present. So for example, maintained, I have maintained, and then the past perfect is usually the period of time in the past before another action in the past simple. That's the main time, the principal moment we use the past perfect. Okay, so I had maintained the road before another action. Okay, and hasn't been maintained. So we have the verb to be, and I think this is an example of the passivo, because normally to create the passive, we say I maintained the road. This is considered the active because we have subject, we have the verb in the past simple, so it's an ordinary verb, subject, verb, and the object. This is considered the passive. To create, sorry, that's considered the active. To create the passive, we change the position of the subject and the object. So for example, the road, also it's necessary to introduce, and then we change me, for example. So that's the first instruction. We change the position of the object, changes to the subject, and the subject changes to the object. And normally we say by me. Okay. The second instruction, to create the passive, we need the verb to be. And the verb to be is necessary in the same tense as this original verb. So the tense of the original verb is the past simple. So the verb to be is necessary in the past simple. So the road was. The second or third instruction is to introduce the participle. Okay, so we need the participle of the original verb. So the road was, and the participle is maintained. Okay, so the road was maintained by me. So that's an example of the passive changing from the active. Okay, and in this text we can see some example of the active and the passive, because we have the present perfect in the passivo, I think. So it's a bit difficult, so you need to pay attention in the future with more advanced structures, and it's very impressive when you can use the more advanced structures in English, especially in exams. So it's a big, big advantage if you can use them correctly in reality and in exams as well. Okay. The difference between well and good. So hasn't been maintained the roads very well. My question for you, why not very good? So sometimes people confuse the difference. For example, I speak English very good, or I speak English very well. So my question for you is, which option do you think is better or more typical? you think the first option is more typical, or do you think the second option is more typical? And the correct answer is probably the second option, because well is connected with the verb to speak, and I think it's considered the adverb. Okay, and here it's exactly the same. Well is considered the adverb, and it is connected to the verb to maintain. Okay, so you maintain the room very well, you maintain your computer very well. So well is the adverb connected to the verb to maintain. Good is more considered the adjective. So you can say, I have good English. That is better because good is considered the adjective. So just a small little lesson and a small tip. That sometimes is a frequent error. Okay, so next after this, substantivo here, the noun or the substantivo, and we have the article, indefinite article. A peasant is considered maybe an ordinary person. I suppose that's the translation, a peasant. And in Spanish, you can see here, just to get you the substitution or the translation, a peasant in Spanish maybe is similar. Campesino, campesina. Okay, so a peasant is maybe the typical person, considered an ordinary person, I suppose, but just for vocabulary, it's the translation. Again, walked by, and again, by is like here, beside or past. So to walk by or to walk past is maybe to ignore you or even just to pass you. Heading home. This is definitely very interesting. So heading home with his arms full of food for his family. So the verb to head is very, very interesting. Okay, so obviously head is cabeza, but the verb to head is when you travel. So for example, very simple, very typical. Today, 11 o'clock after the class, before lunch, I will head to the supermarket. I will head to the city centre. The significance is I will go. So we use the head in relation to go. So head has the significance to go. To bang your head against a brick wall is an expression. So a brick is como ladrillo and wall is pared. So the pared de ladrillos, no sé exactamente cómo se dice en español, pero a brick wall is this, it's very strong. Okay, in sport, you can say the player is like a brick wall, very strong, very defensive. So the verb to bang is like golpear, to hit. So if you bang your head against a brick wall, it's a metaphor that you are making no progress. You're very frustrated and you're trying to communicate with the person. You're trying to negotiate with the person, but it's similar. It's like banging your head against a brick wall. You have no success, no progress, and it's very, very frustrating. Okay, you can say a head banger, which is maybe a little informal and maybe common more in Ireland, possibly used more in Ireland, perhaps. I don't know if other countries use this, but a headbanger is somebody who's a little bit crazy, a little bit eccentric, or a little bit mad, loco. It could be positive, it could be negative. A headbanger is just somebody a little bit crazy, but it could be with friends, and it could be, I suppose, an insult considered as well. So you need to be careful with that. We have another expression. For the beer or the alcohol, you have a head of the pint, which for your beer is the top part of the beer. For example, it's very famous with the stout beer, that you need a good head, which is the top of the beer. But we have another expression in English. We say everything is coming to a head. So when things come to a head, again, it could be your skin, like an infection. If you have an infection on your hand and the infection comes to a head, the significance is it comes to the top and then explode. So if everything is coming to a head, the significance is it's accumulating, and eventually you need to find a solution. So you will finish the problem because it's coming to a head, and when it comes to a head, it usually explodes and finishes. Okay, so that's possible as well. But the verb to head is basically to go, and it's very important, very common, very typical. Okay, good, and that's the significance here. Heading home, going home with his arms. Arms are obviously this part of the body, your arms, but the second significance is similar in Spanish, armas. Okay, the country are well supplied with arms, okay, and that means armas in Espanol, and in English we maybe say weapons. Okay, so if you have arms, the significance is weapons, and maybe to arm the soldiers is to give the weapons to the soldiers. Okay, so that's possible as well, to arm somebody. Okay, and you can also say to disarm, which means that your action prevents them, or your action stops the other person from carrying the weapon. So we have an expression, we say your smile disarms the person, as a metaphor. So if the other person is maybe angry and maybe ready to criticize you, but before they comment, your smile makes that person change the opinion. So to disarm somebody is possible as well. Okay, um, we have more expressions. We can say everything is up in arms, and if it's up in arms, it's available, it's open, it's free, it's disorganized, it's not planned. Everything is up in arms. It's like chaotic. Okay, maybe chaotic, and as I said, disorganized might be a synonym as well. And they're good vocabulary. They are good expressions for sure. Okay, full of food for his family. Again, possessive adjective, my family, your family, his family, masculine, her family, feminine, our family, plural, your family, plural, their family, plural also. But in this situation, it's masculine, his family, and again, it's masculine possession, his arms. Okay, when is the time, the subject is he, the verb is to notice, which is very, very tricky in English. So it's similar to the verb to realize, which is similar to the verb darse cuenta in Spanish. So to notice is like to see. So for example, the car passes, and do you notice the color of the car? Did you recognize? Did you see the color of the car? And that is very, very important. Did you notice? Did you recognize? Did you see the difference? Did you see the detail? So to notice, so when he recognized, when he saw, and again it's the past simple regular, the bowler, he, subject again, the verb to put. So again, that's poner, possessive adjective, my groceries, your groceries, his groceries, and your groceries are like your shopping. It could be fruit, vegetables, milk, bread. They are your groceries. And we say a grocery shop. A grocery shop is the shop that supplies or sells the fruit, the vegetables, the meat, the milk, the bread, the basic food is a grocery shop. And you can say a grocer is the person or the shop. And you can say a green grocer. A green grocer is maybe more for vegetables and fruit. So if the shop is a green grocer, the significance is it's a shop dedicated to vegetables and dedicated to food. Okay, so here you can see groceries. So you can also say his messages. Another synonym is his messages, his groceries, his food, his fruit. He put them down. Okay, so you pick them up and you put them down. That is a phrasal verb as well. To put someone down is like to criticize and make them feel bad. So if you put somebody down, the significance is you say something to make them feel very, very bad, feel very, very low. Also, we use the dog or the animal. Put the animal down has the significance to kill the animal when the animal is not healthy, not sufficiently healthy to continue. You need to kill the animal, so you bring the animal to the veterinary and or the vet, and the vet will put the dog down or put the horse down, and the significance is maybe to kill the animal because they are very, very sick. But in this situation, it's more physical, so he puts the physical groceries down. And attempted, you remember my explanation, attempted has the same significance as the verb to try, and it's the past regular. To move it out of everyone's way. So again, it, I suppose, is substitution for the boulder out of everyone's way. And here is the possession, my way, your way, everyone's way. So the way is the possession of everyone. Okay, this structure is very, very good. So the subject is it, because always we need a subject in English. Almost always we need a subject in English. So the structure is to take time, and it's very, very important. So my lasagna took me 20 minutes to make. So that has a significance with the time. The duration of the time to cook, it took me 20 minutes to make. So that's very, very important. Okay. Again, a while is very important as well. A while is like a small period of time. I am going to the shop, but I am going for a while. I'm going for a little period of time. Okay, I'm going for a while. It's like a small period of time. Okay, we can also say worthwhile. Worth is valor, and we say it was worth it. Vale la pena in the pasado. The concert, the event, the program was in the past worth it. Vale la pena. So the significance of worthwhile is it was vale la pena. Tu tiempo, your time was vale la pena. While is related to time, so worthwhile, it was beneficial, it was advantageous, it was positive for you to do something for your time. It was worthwhile. Okay, very important. So this structure, it took him the duration, a while, a short period, to move. And here we have the pronoun again, object pronoun, technical, because at the beginning it's the subject pronoun, but when it's in the object position, it's the object pronoun. A little technical explanation, and it is the substitution for the boulder. Okay, but is the linker, he is the subject, eventually I think is the adverb, and with the time, remember first, once. So eventually the ly is typical for the adverb, and succeed is a very, very important verb. So the verb to succeed has the significance to have success. It's the verb to succeed. Normally we have the in plus the ing. For example, you succeed. In the past, you succeeded in winning the game, so you had success. Okay, success is the noun, and successful is the adjective. So very, very interesting family of vocabulary, and very, very important. The verb to succeed in doing, to have success, and the adjective successful. Okay, so here he eventually succeeded. It's regular and it's in the past, so it's not necessary in this case to say in ing, because the assumption, we understand the context, but basically he eventually succeeded in moving the boulder. That would be the correct substitution for that. So here you can see the boulder and the lady pushing the boulder, and here is more of the story. So if, again, it's maybe the conditional, if you are able. So in Espanol it's como tener capaz, to have the capacity. So the synonym would maybe be to have the capacity, and in English we basically say to be able. Okay, you can also say to be capable, which is similar. That's like you have the capability, but small difference. To be able and to be capable, very, very similar. And here, if you are able, if you have the capability to push through moments. So the verb to push through, push is this action, to push, and através is through, and the significance is maybe to continue, to really persevere, to really continue in the difficult moments, push through moments. That, again, this is the relative pronoun, which, that, who, they're the most typical. So it's the subject, it's the substitution for the subject, which are moments. That, because we continue a new sentence, a new clause, and we have a new verb to be. The moments are challenging. Very, very interesting, because a challenge is como un reto in Espanol. The verb is to challenge, which is maybe retar. So if you have a problem with somebody's comment, you challenge the opinion, you challenge the comment, because you are not happy with the opinion, you are not happy with the answer, so you challenge the answer. Okay, And challenging is maybe the adjective here. So it's a challenging exercise, a challenging exam. Subject is you. May is the modal verb. Remember, we have a lot of modal verbs: may, might, could, should, must, ought to. So we have a lot of modal verbs, and the big rule after the modal verb, the next verb to end, normally it's to, but in this case we eliminate the to. Okay, so because it's after a modal verb, we just say you meant end. But it's a bit tricky because we have the phrasal verb to end up, and this has the significance your final position. So you start working as a doctor, but you change your job over the years, you change your job, you change your career, and you end up as a teacher. So your final job is a teacher. So you end up, very important, if you travel, you start here, you move to another place, and you end up here. So your final position is here. Okay? And after end up, we need the gerundio, end up having, end up being, end up going. Much, a lot. Better off is a very, very good phrasal verb. For example, you are better off. And the significance is you are in a better condition financially or emotionally or whatever. You are better off. The significance is you have a better condition, a better situation now compared to before. Okay, so for example, you are better off without that job because the job was very difficult. You did not enjoy the job, and now you are in a better position. You are happier, so you are better off. Okay, in English we can say well off, which is a little bit difficult. So you can say that person is very well off, and I'm curious if you know the significance if the person is very well off. It's very, very common in English, very, very important, and the significance really is wealthy. And if you remember the significance of wealthy, it's like very, very rich. So the person is very well off, and the significance is very, very rich. Okay, very wealthy, very rich. The person is very well off, very important. Okay, um, also in English you can say well heeled. Okay, if he or she is very well heeled. So heeled is like attack on. Okay, and well heeled means well dressed. You wear maybe very elegant clothes. You maybe wear very expensive clothes. You're very well heeled. The significance is maybe well dressed. Okay, that is important as well, and it's a common expression for sure. Okay, so you will end up in the final position. You will be in a better position than, because it's comparative, better than you were before adverb or preposition. You subject started trying. And I think start is a special verb. You can have the gerundio, started trying, or you can say started to try. It's a flexible verb, I think, start. So it is possible to have the gerundio or the infinitive. Okay, the final paragraph. After is the preposition. The peasant is the subject. Remember, the ordinary person, the ordinary woman, the ordinary man. Maybe poor. Maybe it's associated with poor, no money. Okay, the verb is to gather, and it's the past, gathered up. It's a phrasal verb, very important verb to gather. I think every week we look at this verb, and the significance is to collect. Okay, so to gather your things, it's like to collect your things. You can gather your thoughts, and the significance is to collect your thoughts. The substantivo is a gathering. You can have a family gathering, and the significance is a family meeting, a family event, a family gathering. Okay, and very, very interesting English. But to gather up basically is to collect. Okay, to collect, or maybe to pick up or to organize. So maybe I think he dropped the bag, but after the peasant gathered up his groceries, remember the groceries are like the vegetables, the fruits, the bread, the milk, and this is the possessive adjective, my groceries, your groceries, his groceries. So we know the peasant is masculine because it's his groceries. Okay, to carry on is very, very important phrasal verb as well. So to carry on is possible literal. So for example, my bag, travel, I enter the aeroplane and I carry my bag on to the aeroplane. That's the first significance. But the second significance is not literal. The significance is to continue. Okay, so if you carry on eating, the significance is to continue eating. Carry on running, the significance is to continue running. So carry on has the significance to continue doing something. Okay, there is another possibility with children. We say stop that, carry on. So it's a substantivo, a noun, and the significance is maybe behavior or bad behavior. So to stop that, carry on, the significance is to stop that behavior and to stop that bad action. Okay, so that's very, very typical and maybe conversational in other situations to carry on. Okay, he again is the subject. Noticed is like to realize, or he darse cuenta. He noticed, he saw. Again, article, indefinite article for the noun. A bag. Lying is very, very important as well, because we have two significances of the verb to lie. The first one is in Spanish mentir, when you do not tell the truth, when you tell a lie, SOS mentir. But the other possibility is como entumbarse. Okay, so for example, I am tired, so I want to lie down, and the significance is I want to go to bed because it's Monday and the weekend was very good, and you want to lie down, you want to have a little siesta or a little nap. So that's very, very famous. But number three, it's possible to say the university lies at the end of the street, and the significance is the position, the location of the university lies, the physical position is at the end of the street. Okay, so that's very, very important as well. Just or only or the exact location. Where, again, location. The boulder, once, that's maybe the adverb. One time was the verb, the location. Okay, he is the subject again. Open is the verb. It's regular in the past. He opened. Object is the bag. To find that. So and then this is the introduction of a new clause. Again, it's the relative pronoun, which, that, who. It is the subject. It's a substitution for the bag. Was is the verb to be plus the participle. So this is the passive. You remember the structure, the passive, you have the verb to be plus the participle. So this means somebody stuffed the bag. So the bag was stuffed. Okay, and stuff is interesting. So a lot of stuff, and the significance is things, and the pronunciation for me is maybe very Irish, stuff, but phonetically and in the book it might be stuff. Okay, so a lot of stuff has the significance, a lot of things, but the verb to stuff is to put a lot of things into your bag. So for example, to stuff your face has the significance to eat a lot of food. So I am stuffing my face, I am eating a lot of food because I'm very, very hungry. The adjective, I am stuffed, and the significance is very full of food. I have no more space to eat because I am stuffed. Okay, and in this situation, the bag was full, the bag was stuffed full of gold coins. Coins is the substantivo, and gold is the adjective, and it's plural. Along with is just really a preposition with. Okay, so I am traveling to the party along with John, and the significance is I am going to the party basically with John beside me. Okay, so along with John beside me, but in this case it's something physical with the letter beside me. From, again, preposition, article, indefinite article, substantivo, a letter. From the king, again, I think the king normally has a capital letter. I think in English the king has normally a capital letter. I think that's the typical rule. The queen, the king, etc. in English language normally has a capital letter, and the letter was saying that. Again, this is the relative pronoun to introduce a new structure, a new clause, a new sentence. The bag's gold, so this is possession. The gold, oro, from the bag, it's possession. The bag's gold, was, the verb to be in the past, article, indefinite article, substantivo, a reward, and this is very important, the difference between a reward and an award. Very, very important difference. So the verb to reward is when, basically in Spanish, recompensar. So when the child or when somebody does a very good action, you give the child a reward. So you give the child some sweets, some chocolates, some pocket money, and that is a reward. It's like a compensation to say thank you. But an award is like a competition or a prize. So if you win the competition, you win an award, or you, the verb to award somebody, you give a prize, or you give really a prize in a competition to somebody to award. So there is a big, big difference between a reward and an award. So a reward is like a recompensation to say thank you. For the peasant, again, it's the article, but this is the definite article, substantivo. To keep is to maintain for him. So this pen is for me to keep. The second possibility is it's only to lend. So I give you this pencil just to lend, or I give you this pencil to keep. So if it's to keep, it's probably forever. Okay, so the significance really to keep is maybe forever, to maintain forever, okay? Because the linker, he had taken the time. So the subject is he, the verb tense is had taken. Remember, with the auxiliary have plus the participle of take. So this is an example of the perfect, but more specifically, it's an example of the past perfect. He had taken the time and energy to move the boulder. Okay, so to take the time, tomar tiempo, it's maybe to gastar tiempo, and energy to move, infinitive verb. The boulder is the object, out of the road, out of the way, for the convenience of others. And again, this is very, very important, the difference between another day, and you can say other days, but you can say the other day, or you can say the other. So there are four possibilities that are very, very important. Another is basically for singular nouns, another day, another week, another year, another person. And other is typically for plural nouns, other days, other weeks, other years, other people. Very, very interesting, very, very important. Okay, the other day is when you have an option. So sorry, the other is when normally you have an option. For example, the other coffee, when you have a selection or a choice of two coffees, do you want this coffee or do you want the other coffee? So when it's the second selection, we say the other. And the other day is maybe a general expression for not yesterday, but sometime in the past, the other day. So not today, the other day. But it's not very specific. It could mean Tuesday, it could mean 2 days ago, it could mean 3 days ago. The other day is an expression in English for some day in the past. Okay, and the others is the group of people. So you travel to the party with us, or you travel to the party with the others, the other group. Okay, who again is the relative pronoun, would be sería, I think, conditional, would be traveling the road in the future. Okay, so just to repeat the story again, because personally I have lost track of the significance of the story. So let's read very, very quickly. There once was a king who decided to do a little experiment. Okay, he had a giant boulder put right in the middle of the street. He then hid near the boulder to see who, if anyone, would try to move it out of the way. Okay, first some wealthy merchants walked by, so some very rich people, business people, walked past. They walked around the boulder complaining that the king hasn't been maintaining the roads very, very well. So they were complaining, they were very negative, not very happy. Next, a peasant walked by, a poor person, maybe a very ordinary person, heading home, going home with his arms full of his food for his family. When he saw the boulder, he put his groceries down, so he decided to focus on the boulder and tried to move it out of everyone's way. It took him a while, but he eventually succeeded. Okay, so the ordinary poor person maybe put the food down and focused on the boulder to try and move the boulder, compared to the merchants, the businessmen, who just ignored and complained. Okay, if you're able to push through moments that are challenging, you may end up being better off than you were starting, than you tried. So That's just a message. So here's more. I think that's just with that separate little comment. So we continue the story. After the peasant gathered up or collected his groceries to continue home, he noticed a bag lying positioned in the middle of the road where the boulder was positioned. He opened the bag to find it stuffed full of gold and gold coins, with a letter from the king saying that the bag's gold was a reward or a present or a prize. Well, remember, an award or reward, so compensation, to say well done for the peasant to keep forever, to maintain, because he had taken the time and energy to move the boulder out of the way, for the convenience of others who would be traveling on the road. Okay, very good story. So the moral, what is the moral or the message of the story? The peasant in the story was taught, but this is the example of the passive, because we have the verb to be plus the participle taught, and the verb is to teach, and the past is taught, and the participle is taught. So here it's the passive, by the king, that every every obstacle you face is an opportunity to improve. Okay, so every obstacle is an opportunity for you to improve. If you are able to push through moments that are challenging, you may end up being much better off than you were before you started trying. So that's the message, that's the moral. This story also offers a lesson of personal responsibility. If you see a job ahead of you in the future, don't leave it for the next person to do. Instead, rather, step up means move to the position and take responsibility. Get the job done means to achieve the job, to help the people who come after you. So very interesting story. Nice story, and every day we do little stories to explain the vocabulary, but also the message and the moral. So very good story, and you can see the moral here. Of course, it's just a story, and of course in reality sometimes it's more difficult, but very interesting. Well, I never heard that story before, but I'm sure it could be famous, but I've never heard it before. So I'm happy to see this story myself. And the vocabulary in the moral, I think everything is okay. As I said, was taught is the passivo. Every obstacle, each obstacle, no big difference. Each obstacle you face, it offers an, because the word begins with a vowel. The article is an opportunity. Infinitive, to improve. The conditional, if you are able, if you have the capacity to push through, to continue moments that are challenging, difficult, very hard, you may finally be better off, in a better position than you were before you started trying. Okay, and that's it. Again, rather has a significance instead, and we have three possibilities with rather. You can say I would rather, and the significance is I would prefer. You can say rather than, and the significance is instead of. And you can say rather plus the adjective, which means bastante, or in English, quite, very, very important. So there's three possibilities. This significance is rather than, so you can just say rather. Okay, and here the significance is in lugar de. Step up is a bit difficult, and that means basically it's a phrasal verb. And we normally say step up to the plate. In baseball, you have the plate, and if you step up to the plate, it's your turn, it's your responsibility, it's your time, it's your moment to hit the ball. So you need to step up to the plate. It's your moment to take responsibility. So that's a very, very good expression. In English, you can say to step down, and that's typical in your job. If you want a more inferior position, or you want to leave your position, you step down. Okay, to step back, very similar as well, and that means to maybe take a moment of reflection and less pressure to step back from the center. Okay, and the final expression, to get the job done, is to achieve the job. So to get the job done has the significance to do the job, or to achieve, or to accomplish, or to complete the job. Very, very good expression. Okay, good. Okay, and again we have the people, because it's plural, one person, three people. So the people in general, relative pronoun who come after you, so people who follow you. Good. So very, very interesting story, of course, and very interesting vocabulary. That's approximately 1 hour. It's perfect time for everybody. Thank you for watching. I hope everybody has been connected on Facebook. I hope you can follow the class. I know we have some people in lots of different parts of the world, so it's amazing. And if you want to leave a message to say where you are watching from, Brazil, Europe, I don't know, but feel free to leave a message. That's if you understand me. And some people are watching live and some people might watch recorded. And hopefully this class helps a few people. That's the objective. And hopefully you can maybe help others with something that you are able to help them with, something simple. And this is just the same. Okay, so also we have classes every day. At 9 o'clock on Monday, we have a B2, B1, B2 level group and class, and we have 10 people available to join, so you can join on Monday, no problem. Tuesday, it's the C1 to C2 level of a group of maybe, again, it's open to 10 people, and it's €4 on Monday and Tuesday, and every morning is €4, and you are welcome to join. Wednesday, it's the B2. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's B2 level, B1, B2 level. Tuesday, Thursday, it is C1, C2 level at 9 o'clock every morning, Ireland time. And in the afternoon at 3:15, we have specific webinars. So today at 3:15, we have a grammar webinar and it's open for everybody. You can join on Zoom. Just you can find my link or I can send you the link and you can join the webinar today at 3:15. It's €6 and the same every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 3:15. We have specific webinars. Tuesday, tomorrow it is sports. Wednesday it is the IELTS exam. Thursday it's the C1 advanced exam. Friday it is business English and also the B2 webinar. And Saturday in the morning, well, sorry, that's Monday to Friday is the new schedule, and we've other possibilities as well. So if you want to make a group, you are welcome. And thank you again to everybody for watching. Everything is free. If you want to make a small donation, a small contribution, you are welcome. This is the information. If you want to leave a little tip, like propina, I forget the word in Portuguese for a tip, como propina. Gorjeta, I think algo como gorjeta in Portuguese. So that's the information for Revolut or the information for Bizum or the information for the bank transfer if you want. And that's it. So again, thank you so much. And hopefully this class might help a little. And thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope you had a nice weekend and welcome back to the start of the week, the Monday. So thank you again and I hope you talk to you soon. Bye bye.